So I don't know if y'all are familiar with Title IX. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's a protection in schools specifically for, oh, you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of religion or on the basis of sex or on the basis of race. There are certain protected, and it's Title IX specifically has to do with educational environments. Like Title VII is, I think, workplaces, like different requirements for different areas. Title IX is education. And generally speaking, the way that this works is in the courts, a lot of the time, they understand the whole sex protection part of the Title IX to mean, yeah, that applies to trans people and to gay people because, for example, if you would hire a man who is married to a woman, but you would not hire a woman who is married to a woman, then you are doing sex discrimination because you're punishing the person for doing something that you associate with the other sex. And it's similar with trans people. If you would punish a man for wearing a dress, but you wouldn't punish a woman for wearing a dress, then that's sex-based discrimination, right? So we've just been kind of relying on the courts to pad this out for us and give us the protections. Like, thank goodness that the courts are interpreting it this way. But obviously that's a little bit weak because the courts can then change it. If one of these things gets appealed up to the Supreme Court, all it takes is one little technicality that they can take issue with, and then boom, there goes your Title IX protections. Like, there goes any protection that trans people have in the school, like, education environment. So what we're seeing now is that the U.S. Department of Education has actually updated it. There are new Title IX regulations which are stating that protections for LGBTQ students, like, it is forbidden to discriminate against them for sexual orientation or gender identity. So they're just basically updating the rules to reflect what the courts have been saying for a long time now, that this is sex discrimination if you discriminate against trans people, or like that gender identity is inherently part of these protections. If you're enjoying this video, hit the like button, maybe subscribe, hit all notifications if you want. Feel free to check out the links in the description. You might find some merch you like, or you can hit up the Patreon to support the content and find free stuff. There's going to be a backlash. This is a very surprising backlash, but there are 4 states, officials in at least 4 states, including Oklahoma, Louisiana, Florida, and South Carolina. They have directed schools to ignore these regulations, which is going to potentially set up a situation where the federal government starts suing the states for breaking federal law, effectively. There was a superintendent from Louisiana who decried the new Title IX regulations, saying that this could block teachers and other students from exercising what has been dubbed by some, quote, a right to bully trans students by using their old names and pronouns intentionally. Yeah, genuinely, these people are like, you shouldn't be able to force, you're compelling my speech to make me use your correct name and pronouns. They want to have the right to create a hostile environment for trans people. Like, that's effectively what they're advocating for, whether they mean to be or not. They're advocating, like, we want to have the right to make you feel like shit. Like, you want me to have, like, I want the right to be able to push you to the point of suicide without any repercussions. Like, because trans people are not a class of people, effectively. Like, that is kind of ultimately what's kind of happening there. That was a lot of kindas. Over in South Carolina, the school superintendent Ellen Weaver wrote in a letter that providing protections for trans and queer students under Title IX, quote, would rescind 50 years of progress and equality of opportunity by putting girls and women at a disadvantage in the educational arena. What? Apparently leaving trans kids out of her definition of those who deserve progress and equality for opportunity. She also directs schools to ignore the new directive while waiting for the court challenges. While South Carolina does not have a bathroom ban or statewide Don't Say Gay or Trans law, such bills are obviously still being proposed in the state. Florida Commissioner of Education Manny Diaz instructed schools not to implement the regulations, stating that these regulations are, quote, tantamount to gaslighting the country into believing that biological sex no longer has any meaning. Governor DeSantis, of course, approved of the letter, states that they will not comply. So here we have, yeah, Republican states are just flouting federal law. Like, that's federal law. And then, of course, in Oklahoma, This was the latest person to echo the sentiments. This is the guy who appointed Chaya Raichik from Libs of TikTok into an advisory role. So yeah, obviously it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know what exactly they're planning on doing. I don't know what exactly it is. Like, they're just going to hemorrhage money. This is the thing about these Republican run states. It's the thing about these red states. Their economies are terrible. People are not moving there. People are moving away. They are not investing in the kinds of infrastructure that get more people there. They engage in frivolous lawsuits. They're about to get sued. Like, these states, if they just continue treating trans people like crap, which they're going to get sued by the federal government. And I hope, I guess, that process goes well, because there already has been at least one lawsuit where I think the federal government did sue, I think it was Alabama. I haven't checked on it in a long time though, but they were suing on account of like this whole sports ban thing and like you're breaching Title IX. As someone who's been to South Carolina, I can confirm the entire state is a portal to hell. I am begging transphobes to show me the trans person who says that biological sex has no meaning. Who are they? Where are they? Are they in the room with us right now? This is a classic Cat Black point that she's been making for years. So that's where I got this, is trans people are very aware of our biology. That's the whole reason we're going to the doctor to change our biology. Like, we are deeply aware of what our biological sex is and what that means. That doesn't mean that it's unchanging or that it defines who we are as people. That's the difference. We're not saying biological sex doesn't matter. I mean, we are kind of saying it doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's not imperative to your existence, I don't think. The difference between males and females and humans is just not huge. If you look at other species where there are huge size disparities or where the males and females are totally different colors, you know, there are other species where the difference is much more meaningful. And when we say biological sex doesn't matter, we're saying this shouldn't matter for your access to healthcare. It shouldn't matter for whether you can get a job. It shouldn't matter for whether people treat you well or not. Like, those are the ways in which we're saying biological sex doesn't matter. And we're saying also almost every aspect of biological sex is changeable. Every meaningful aspect of biological sex is changeable. Like, we can totally change our hormone makeup, which changes all of our secondary sex characteristics. We can have surgery to have, like, we might not be fertile with the opposite genitals, but we can have the opposite genitals. Those surgeries were created for cisgender people. It's not like they were pioneered for trans people. So there's cis people out there with fake mutilated genitals just like trans people, if that's the way that you're going to present them, you know, like, we can change all these things. So we're saying that biological sex should not dictate or define anything about your lives. So, but it's like, it doesn't literally mean nothing. I don't know why. I don't know what this accusation is. I think that maybe what they're implying when they say biological sex matters, I mean, they're trying to use a softer, more roundabout way of saying, basically, just, you can't change your biological sex. I will treat you like what I think your biological sex is, effectively. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, these people are trying to make it illegal to cross-dress. There's no skirts gene, there's no pants gene. It's not about biological sex. Yeah, when Greg Abbott talks, he's referring to trans people, but what he says is a man in a dress shouldn't be a teacher. He is declaring that men should dress a certain way and that we should take action to make sure that men don't dress like women because that's too distracting and confusing. Has this guy never had Spirit Week? I guess he's too old for Spirit Week. But I remember when I was a kid, we would have Spirit Week, which is the same week as like a big game or something. And each day is like a different theme. And sometimes that theme is cross-dressing, as problematic as we would probably consider that nowadays. When I was a kid, you know, like when I was in high school back in 2009 or whatever, like, yeah, there was a day where all the cheerleaders came in wearing the football gear and the footballers all came in wearing the cheerleaders' uniforms. Like, it's a thing that should be fine. Like, it's not a big deal. Playing dress up is not a big deal. Yeah, most kids love playing dress up and they generally don't think of it. You don't need to think of it as more complicated than that. If you have a 3-year-old who's confused about a man wearing makeup, just say he likes wearing makeup. Like, you don't even have to go into the gender stuff. If we accept gender non-conforming people, then it's going to be a lot easier to accept trans people, I would think. I would like to think that both of those things go together a little bit. Yeah, just let people wear what they want to wear. It's not a big deal. Can you stop making a big deal out of it? Stop being so weird. And this doesn't even go into like drag being culturally significant and historically present for an extended period of time. Like drag as a performance, even still, we've got whole RuPaul's Drag Race is, for a lot of cis people, like that's their connection to queer life, which is obviously horrendous, but still. All right, I guess that's maybe all we have on the 4 states choose to ignore Title IX. That's going straight in the notes. Thank you, my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Wellington Marcus, Michelle Winter, Danielle McDonald, Suzanne Maynard, DZXN, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Ella V. Nobody, Pasnell Infinity, Jamie Jam, Sojo, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Athiet, Kevin Young, Desi Quiche, Celeste, Liam Hodgson, and Mr. Atheist.